Hello, hello, hello. It's Jessica, and it is Tuesday, and that means it is time for Crypto Tax Tips with Beta Virtual Assistants. Whether or not there is a schedule created, we are here trying to serve you, the crypto investor, every Tuesday, every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. And today, it's the beginning of a new month, it's the beginning of a new quarter, and the coolest thing is, I saw a fox go through my yard earlier today. It was very cool. Like, just this fox just walking through my yard. Anyways, we're here today to talk about crypto taxes and not about foxes. But if you have no idea about crypto taxes, like how do you even start? What do you do? What is the first thing you need to know? So I thought, what a great time, beginning of a new quarter and all the rest. And just 2 weeks until we have our USA tax extension deadline. Maybe you still need to file your crypto taxes, and now is the time to figure out how to do it. So, what are crypto taxes? What do you need to know? The basics is, if you received any crypto for any reason besides purchasing, or if you sold or disposed of any crypto, then you're supposed to report that to your government's tax agency. And what that means for USA tax investors is every time you sell crypto, every time you receive income as crypto, even if it's like normal income in your business, that needs to be reported as part of your business income. If you are earning mining, or if you're earning other forms of income, if you're doing any kind of protocol that pays out in crypto, any of those transactions need to be reported. What's the easiest way to report all this stuff? Because, at the end of the year, when you have a job and it's time to report your taxes, your job sends you the little tax form that says, this is how much you earned, this is how much you paid already in the estimated taxes, whatever system that they have. You take those numbers and feed them into your tax software or give them to your accountant, and then that spits out some number of taxes that you owe based on what you earned. So crypto taxes work pretty much the same way, except you need a special software to do it. Since crypto is still a relatively new industry, it doesn't have a lot of regulations in place. A lot of people don't understand the rules. The IRS is always threatening to change the rules because they haven't been really set out in black and white yet, which leaves room for interpretation and all that sort of thing. But the basics are, the first question on the 1040 tax form in the US is, have you received any crypto or have you sold any crypto? So if you can answer those two questions, if you have received or sold crypto, then you need to report it. And the nice thing about using software is it's fairly easy. So the way the software works is, usually you're creating an API key, which is automated processing intelligence, or I forget something. I always forget. But what it means is that it gives permission for computers, programs to talk to each other. So when you're making a payment purchase, for instance, if you put your credit card info into a shopping cart online like Amazon, and you put your credit card info in, Amazon uses an API that's connected to your credit card. It connects the Amazon shopping cart to the credit card and says, is it okay for us to charge this person money? And the credit card says yes, and then the transaction is placed, and you don't even know this is happening because it just magically happens. So crypto tax software kind of works the same way, except we as the crypto investor have to go in and create that API so that it can export the data that we need into the tax software. And we always do this with a read-only API key. And read-only is really important because there are APIs that do all sorts of things, like, for instance, the API that tells your credit card it's okay to charge you money. And you don't want your API to have trading privileges or withdrawal privileges or anything like that. So giving it read-only permission for any API that you're creating for tax software means that the computers talk to each other and your exchange, for instance, if you're in Coinbase and you have a tax software, so you make the API key in your exchange that tells it that it's okay if it talks to your tax software. And then your tax software, you put the API key in there so that when it shows up to the exchange and says, I want to download Jessica's data, then the exchange knows, oh yes, you have this key and it's all kosher and everyone's happy, and it downloads the data. So having a crypto tax software do this automatically means once that API is created, most of your data is imported directly into the tax software, and all you need to do is worry about reconciling it. If you can't create an API, and there are a lot of exchanges out there which are newer, or they haven't built a good API for their side yet, every single tax software has to, oh my gosh, the crypto industry isn't standardized at all. So every single exchange has a different way of reporting trades and keeping records and all this sort of thing. So every single exchange needs to build their half of the API that's going to export the data. And then every crypto tax software needs to build a second half of the API to meet up with the crypto exchange so that the data can be imported and interpreted correctly. So one of the big drawbacks, at least at this point in crypto taxes, is not every exchange has the API built yet. Not every tax software has the API built for that exchange yet. So there are definitely a lot of exchanges where you have to go in and manually download your transactions. And what this usually means is there's usually a button that you push that says download history. It usually exports all of your data into a CSV file, and then you just have to make sure the format of the file is correct so that it can be uploaded into the tax software. Once you've got all your data in the tax software is amazing because you push a button and it runs the taxes, if you've reconciled. So this is the other piece of the puzzle is, yes, you need the data in the tax software, then you need to make sure it's telling the right story. So often we are helping our customers with making sure that their data is telling the right story. In fact, we had a Q&A call this morning. Someone showed up, said, oh my gosh, there's all these transactions with coins that I don't recognize. And we explained the whole concept of junk airdrops and how some people will spam your wallet address. They'll see your wallet is active on the blockchain and they will send you a coin in hopes that you'll purchase it or interact with it somehow or something. And we like to call these junk airdrops. And what happens is we usually delete them. And I know that I have gone into this many times on other Facebook Lives. So if it's not on our YouTube channel yet, definitely search our Facebook Live, see if you can find one of them talking about junk airdrops and all the details that go into that. But in any case, this person showed up. He had a ton of coins that were junk airdrops. He said, what do I do with these? So we told him what to do. And then he said, oh, and I have this other thing happening. And we said, oh, yeah, there's certain other transactions, especially if you're very active on DeFi, buying and selling and making protocol deposits into liquidity pools or anything like that. It gets more complicated. And you want to make sure that your taxes are telling the right story. And actually, we spent most of the hour answering his questions. And at the end of it, he was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. And we said, we can fix that. We can take care of all of that for you. Usually people are pretty happy to go along with that because so much of it is nitpicky stuff. And we have tricks and things to make it a little bit easier and a little bit shorter. And we definitely understand what we're doing. So it doesn't take us as long as it would take you necessarily because you have to learn the whole process. You have to understand why. You have to do all this. He did comment a lot on how valuable he found our course and how he was really learning a lot from the process and everything, but it is a time-consuming process when you're just beginning to become familiar with everything that can happen in crypto and all the different transactions that can happen. It's just a little tiny bit crazy. So it was our pleasure to say, hey, would you like to upgrade to our premium package? Because we'd be happy. We have an opening right now, and we can almost certainly get you done by the deadline next week. 2 weeks. I think we have 2 weeks. Starting to run out of time though. So if you are a person who needs help with your crypto taxes, you haven't thought about it, you've been ignoring it, oh my gosh, you don't want to face it. If you're going to need help, now is the time to be contacting us and to be asking questions. We do have a do-it-yourself course that teaches you exactly what you need to do with most of the things. It's not as good at teaching you how to do all the intricacies of DeFi, but if you're doing just basic exchanges and basic transfers between exchanges and you need to upload a CSV file or two, it does teach all of that. And it does include access to the only software we recommend using, because here's the thing about using a software is it's only as good as the software was built, right? So there are a lot of tax softwares out there, and you might have heard of some of them. One of them is called Coinly. Obviously, that's the one that most people have heard about because they run lots of ads and say, oh, we can get your tax reports done in 20 minutes. Yes. And if your taxes are a little bit complicated, it's going to take you a long time to reconcile in there. And they don't always handle the number of transactions that our customers need. We do have a lot of friends and customers who ran bots which racked up hundreds of thousands of transactions, and Coinly limits out at 100,000 transactions the last time I checked on it. Coinly, not the best choice. Some of the other tax softwares, there's one called TaxBit, which was saying, oh, we're the best tax software ever. And then I got an email this week and they're not going to be offering their consumer product after October 30th, I think. I was like, well, if you're going to use TaxBit, I wouldn't stick with them because they won't be around. You'll have to start over next year. And this is the other problem with doing crypto taxes is you really want to have a record of your entire history of crypto, so that anything that still has consequences that might affect this year's taxes is in there and accounted for. We have customers who bought Bitcoin, back in 2016, 2017, 2014 even. And the cost basis of that Bitcoin might not have been used yet, depending how you reported taxes in previous years. And that means we still have an asset in your account that needs to be reported as being sold at some point, which means you need to have a history of how you got that asset, how much you paid for that asset, and you need to make sure that history is going with you wherever you go. So the problem with a couple of the crypto tax softwares is one or two that I've seen, you have to import your stuff every year. And gosh, can you imagine figuring out all of your stuff every single year? Most of them are not like that. Most of them will take your transactions with you from year to year, and that's a good thing. So watch out for that. Definitely make sure if you're investigating crypto tax softwares, we actually have a course called Crypto Taxes 101 where we go into a little bit of detail about how to pick a good software, what things to look for, things like does it work for your country? Does it have the tax method that you want to use? So there's first in, first out, or there's last in, first out, or there's His Royal Majesty's something, HMRC for the people in England, or there's the Canadians adjusted cost basis. So you want to make sure your crypto tax software has the right method for your country and has your currency available, so it's producing the numbers in the correct currency. Then you want to make sure that your crypto tax software is relatively easy to use, preferably has lots of API connections to lots of exchanges, and if it doesn't have as many API connections or it doesn't have the correct one for your exchange, the next best thing is to have a supported CSV format. So if they have a supported CSV format, that means they know how to interpret the data. You just download the CSV and import it into the software and it knows how to interpret the data. As opposed to the third option, which is unsupported CSV, and that means you download the data and then you have to format it into the correct way to get all of the data interpreted. And that can be a little bit of a pain and a little bit of a headache. So you definitely want to find tax software that has lots of options for APIs and supported CSVs. And then you want to find a tax software that reports your income, because this is another thing that a lot of the tax softwares out there are not doing. They will give you all the numbers you need for your capital gains, like your trades, you bought crypto, you sold crypto. It knows how to figure that out. It's really easy. But when it comes to receiving crypto, which is the other thing you're supposed to be reporting, there's a lot of these tax softwares that are not reporting it at all, or they don't tell you that you need to report it, and they definitely don't print out a nice little report that says, hey, this is the income you earned. So the only software that we recommend using is called Cointracking, and we have a link which I can get you that will give you 10% off your subscription, or if you come through and do one of our courses, if you do our basic course, we include the software access free as part of that course for the first year. If you do a premium package, we actually include the software for a year's subscription, unlimited transactions, and we really have seen unlimited. We have a couple customers now who have crossed the 1 million transaction mark. That's 1 million transactions in one account. I mean, it's crazy. You do not see that every day, but we have seen it, and this software can handle it. And the best thing of all is it makes it easy to report the crypto income, so you know that you're covered on that end. There are so many customers that we service and we say, hey, we see you reported taxes last year. You were supposed to report this income you received, and they just have no clue. So I was talking with another customer this morning, and he actually had done his taxes himself with the software that we recommend. So he had a subscription to Cointracking, but he had not met us, so he had not gone through the whole process of reconciling, and he turned them in with 67 errors on his reports. And this is the thing about a lot of the tax softwares is if you do it wrong, they'll probably tell you you're doing it wrong. They might not tell you how to fix it. They tell you there's errors and there's lost cost basis. So he had 67 errors. And then he didn't know he was supposed to report the income. He didn't know that it wasn't automatically imported into TurboTax, that you have to report it separately. So he didn't. Luckily, he only made $35 of income last year. So it was like, $35, who cares? But he did over report his capital gains by $3,500 because he hadn't solved those 67 errors. And this week, when he gave up on his taxes and said, "Can you do it for me?" And I went in and cleaned up everything. It's beautiful. Everything makes sense. We found a couple of the things he'd forgotten he'd done, got that data imported. Everything is nice and pretty, and we know that he over-reported 3,500 last year, and this year he has all these losses that he can report, and he knows he has the records and he has the accounting, and it's all laid out for anyone who comes after him if he ever gets audited or whatever. It's all right there. There's like proof, there's statements, reports, and all that sort of thing. So this is what we offer. This is what we specialize in. And if you need help with your crypto taxes, I know we say it every one of these Facebook Lives, but we love to help people figure out their crypto taxes and get it organized, get it pretty, and done right. You know, if the IRS does get 87,000 new agents like they're threatening, and they do start coming after crypto investors, I want to be in the crypto investor camp that did my taxes to the best of my ability and hopefully correctly. So that's where I plan on being. And if you want to join me, come on over. As always, we've got a link in the comments to our Crypto Tax Matrix course, which just goes through answering 2 questions. Do you need to file crypto taxes? For instance, if you have receipts of income and you have sold crypto, the answer is, I'm going to give it away, but the answer is yes, you do need to file taxes. And then the second question it answers is it simple enough that I can do it myself, or do I need help? And what kind of help do I need? So if you're interested in checking that out, it is a free course if you claim it and use it. It goes away in 3 days if you don't use it, but if you claim it and do the checkboxes and watch the videos and all that sort of thing, then you get to keep access to it for as long as you like. And then we have our Crypto Taxes 101 course that I mentioned, which helps you pick a good software if you are not interested in following our recommendation, but I totally recommend using Cointracking. I'll make sure that we get a Cointracking link to the software, the 10% off. If you use our affiliate link, we get a small commission and you get 10% off. So it's like a win-win. And then if you want unlimited transactions for your Cointracking subscription though, we actually sell that through our corporate account at a 25% discount. So you definitely want to talk to us if you want that, or if you are interested in our do-it-yourself or done-for-you services, let us know. We are always here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. And other than that, I think I'm signing off for today. Have a great week. Let us know if you have questions. See you again on Thursday.